kernels of wisdom, one might say. I needed to sneak in one more corn pun, I'm
Nice.
sorry. But
Oh, that was, amazing.
hey, nice.
Okay. Ah.
Despite how corny this movie is. That's the most
You
obvious
two are
one.
just popping off now.
Oh, man. All right, here they are. Hello and welcome to Camp Kaiju Monster Movie Podcast. We're your hosts, Matt Levine.
And Vincent Hannum.
And we are talking about all our favorite monster movies, the good, the bad, and the downright campy, and asking if they stand the test of time.
Traditional kaiju, creature features, space invaders, the supernatural, and everything in between. All strange beasts, welcome here.
Camp Kaiju is brought to you by Zach Linder and the Zach Pack, powered by Coldwell Banker Realty. Whether you're looking for your dream home, savvy investment property, or expert guidance in home rehab and flipping, the Zach Pack has you covered. Check the link in the show notes for more information.
Every child is afraid of the dark, the unknown, the nightmare. In Gatlin, Nebraska, that nightmare is in the corn. Stephen King's Children of the Corn.
Praise God! Praise the Lord!
From Stephen King, the author of Carrie, The Shining, The Dead Zone, and Christine, an adult nightmare. Children of the Corn.
I'm here, Lord! I'm ready!
Stephen King's Children of the Corn, an adult nightmare. Coming soon from New World Pictures.
Vincent, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm ready to play some Monopoly. I'm ready to sharpen my scythes and do all the things that are generally forbidden.
Yeah, maybe eat a little corn. Corn chowder, corn on the cob, no?
Corn casserole.
Like a hot dish? We live in Minnesota, and I feel like I still don't fully understand what a hot dish is. It's terrible.
Well, you're from Wisconsin.
Yeah, that's true. I have an excuse. Yeah. We're talking about corn so much because tonight we are talking about the movie Children of the Corn. We are continuing our Stephen King June here on Camp Kaiju. Last time we talked about Maximum Overdrive, which Vincent, you brought to the podcast.
Another 80s King schlock fest, I would say, towards the B side of things.
There is less AC/DC music in Children of the Corn, which is maybe one of the detractors. Yeah.
Unfortunate.
Very unfortunate. But yeah, excited to talk about Children of the Corn tonight, especially excited because we are welcoming back to the podcast our multiple-time guest star, Naomi Osborn. Hello, Naomi.
Hi, thank you for having me back.
Thank you for coming back. It's always a delight to have you on the show.
So excited to have you back.
I was trying to figure out how many times I had been on here, so I went to the Spotify to look up the episodes, and I think this is my 9th time, so next time will be the 10th, but every time is super fun, so I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, thank you so much. We all just kind of met up at the Heights Theater because, Naomi, you had a special screening at the Heights. I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit, even though it already happened, but you can talk about the next show that you have coming up there as well.
Totally. The screening that you're referring to, of course, is my new screening, or my new series, Strange Hours. It's a monthly late night series that I've put together, and I guess in the most simple way I can describe it is just for people who love weird movies and watching them together. So it's not specific to any one genre or era, just those kind of memorable, bold, sometimes cult, just unforgettable movies that traditionally have screened later at night and attract a certain crowd. And that crowd is a crowd I've always felt a part of, and a crowd that I think is really valuable in the independent theater scene. So Mine's going to be all about that. I kicked it off with, of course, the Holy Mountain, which I was just so excited to kick off my series with that one because it is bold, it's unforgettable, and seeing it with the crowd was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, sold out crowd at the Heights. It was awesome.
Oh my gosh. That just exceeded my expectations in every way. I was hopeful because the Trilon had screened it a few years ago and they sold it out two nights in a row. So I thought, well, maybe, But I was just so happy to see it. I saw friends there, I saw you guys there, and just the amount of people I saw there that I didn't know made me so excited because it's like, here are these cool people running around town that I don't even know yet. And they're future friends, So it was just super exciting and the vibes were great. Like my intro went okay. I would have said some different things, but that's how it is with public speaking, But it was a great time and I'm looking forward to the next screening, which is going to be on Friday, July the 10th, where I am screening the Nicolas Cage classic Vampire's Kiss.
Which I've never seen. I was so excited to see it for the first time at your screening. It's going to be awesome.
Well, I'm so excited too, and I think it's going to be really fun and memorable. And the people that know it are going to be excited to drag their friends there, and that's definitely a hallmark of a good movie for strange hours. So pretty excited about that. And I've never seen it theatrically. I've never even seen it screened anywhere. So, and that doesn't mean it's not. I just have not seen that. So I'm really looking forward to experiencing that with the crowd.
Can't wait for future screenings in your series. We have some other things to talk about too, like collaborations we have coming up in the near future, but we'll get to that in a little bit. We'll hold off on that for now. Before we do get to that, just wanted to thank you all again for hanging out with us. Please do rate and review Camp Kaiju and follow us on patreon.com/Camp Kaiju for additional videos, reviews, merchandise, and more. Other ways to get in touch are email, campkaiju@gmail.com, our website, which is campkaijupodcast.com, on Instagram, or you can leave us a voicemail in the answering machine zone at 612-470-2612. As always, we do want to give a very special thank you to our current Patreon members. So thank you to Jason, Chris, Sean, Peggy, our anonymous patron, Superfan Don, Steffi, Jim Cheney, and Benjamin. Welcome to Camp Kaiju.
Yeah, new patron, Benjamin.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. Naomi, do you also want to talk about our next trivia session?
Totally. I would love to. It is not too far away. I don't know when this episode will air, but the trivia I'm excited to have you guys guest at will be on Monday, July the 6th at 7:30 at Indeed Brewery. And it's going to be a really good time. Attendance has been fantastic lately. A lot of enthusiastic players, both old and new. Vincent and Matt are experienced at this. We hosted together last spring, and it was really fun. We had a great time. I had no worries. You guys came so prepared. It made just the collaboration super easy and super fun. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a really good time.
I'm excited. I have some kaiju haikus I want to throw at people. Naomi, did you get my document? I shared it with you.
Yes, I got both of you guys' document. I think you're both just doing great. Keep doing what you're doing. No comments. Fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
I can't wait. We're hard at work on perfecting our questions. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Last time was such a blast.
Well, I know you had a blast last time because I remember you submitted, I think it was 15 possible questions for a category on basketball movies. And so listeners know we only need 5. So we've got some overachievers here, but I like it. It makes my job so easy.
I went a little overboard. I was like, if you don't like, even the majority of these questions, there should be 5 that are acceptable. So I won't go that far this time.
Well, you know the process now and a little bit about what makes a good question and a good experience. And I don't know. I don't worry about you guys at all. It's been very easy and very chill, very fun. And I think that'll translate to the actual experience of gameplay and people feel that. So it'll be a good time.
Totally. Thank you again. Yeah, can't wait for that. And Vincent, you and I also have another thing coming up. We're going to be at G-Fest in July in Chicago.
Yeah, the next weekend after trivia, the weekend of July 10th, Matt and I will be there. I know I'll be there on the Saturday, but the festival runs Friday through Sunday. There are classic kaiju movies being screened at a nearby theater. It's the biggest Godzilla kaiju convention in the country, and we hope to see you all there.
Sounds so cool.
Totally. I'm so excited. So much good stuff coming up. We're going to have a very busy Kai July. But currently, we are still in our Kingly June, which is a very stupid name that I came up with for our Stephen King June that we're in right now. But I'm going to stick with it. I like it. So yeah, tonight we're talking about Children of the Corn. Before we get to that, as always on Camp Kaiju, we're going to take a little trip down monster movie history lane. I have a list of movies that came out in late June here in our Google Doc. As always, we're just going to shout out one of these for each of us and talk about it a little bit, whether we've seen it or haven't seen it. Naomi, did any of those movies kind of jump out at you?
Yes, there's a couple that jumped out, but the one I want to shout out is the Mask of the Red Death. That is a Roger Corman film, and I thought it would be kind of fun just to mention it because Roger Corman started the production company New World Pictures, which is the same production company that put out Children of the Corn. But it's also a very good movie. It's cool. It's part of a series that Corman did of 8 different Poe-inspired films. Has a lot of good commentary on it about, the inevitability of death despite wealth that maybe would resonate. I don't know. But yeah, that's the one I thought I wanted to shout out a little bit. Mask of the Red Death. Yeah.
I love it. It's a beautiful movie too. It's so colorful and bright, great compositions. I love it.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a good choice. Vincent, are there any that you want to mention on there?
Yeah, I want to shout out Conquest of the Planet of the Apes from 1972. This is the 3rd film in that series, and I think it is so bold and riveting. So in a nutshell, it's the year 1990. It's the distant future in the world of the movie. But it's the okay, not to get into the chronology of the Planet of the Apes, right? But we know the first movie was set like way, way in the future. But by the 3rd movie, through, I believe, time travel or something, yeah, the story takes place in the human world of 1990, and we see the apes lead the revolt that eventually would become their ape world in the first one. So a lot of strong action and compelling themes and characters and relationships against the backdrop of rebellion and slavery, and it's dynamite. Check it out.
I need to watch those movies. I feel like both the original series and the reboot series, sorely uneducated in both of them. So I feel like Planet of the Apes is the franchise. Weirdly enough, the Tim Burton one might be the only one that I've seen, and that's
whoa,
whoa.
Oh my gosh.
Because we talked
that
about
was an
that
episode. Yeah, I was on that episode.
It was a fun episode, but I should watch some actual good ones in that series at some point. That might be a good idea.
Well, what's a good movie you've got on your list there?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of good movies on this list. The Thing from 1982 is maybe the best one on there. But, I've started doing something different with these lists recently where I want to talk about a movie I haven't seen that sounds really crazy. So the one that I want to shout out is the first one on this list, The Thing That Couldn't Die from 1958. I just want to read the synopsis real quick. A 400-year-old disembodied head hypnotizes a female psychic who recovered the head using a dowsing rod to search for the rest of its body. That's the plot of this movie. Yeah, it sounds amazing. It came out in 1958 on a double bill with Horror of Dracula, the great Hammer horror film, which must have been I've only seen one half of that double bill, but must have been so cool for audiences back then. So The Thing That Couldn't Die, that is the movie that I will watch soon because it sounds crazy.
Well, you better get a head start by the time we're done with this.
Nice. The first of presumably many bad puns we'll have tonight, I hope.
It's already started,
We have to do it. Yeah, I feel like easy low-hanging fruit. Is that a corn pun or is corn vegetables? That's a vegetable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Never mind. Well, we're all about low-hanging fruit anyway, figuratively speaking on this show.
You can fit it in there.
Yeah, I tried. It didn't work out that well.
Just go for it. Swing big. And then coming up on Camp Kaiju, our next episode will be a return of the Magic and Monsters segment series that I do with our friend of the pod, Patrick Kozicky. And we're going to be talking about where we talk about Disney adjacent monster movies. We're going to talk about Dragonslayer from the early 80s, a fantasy movie I've never seen, but I'm pretty stoked to see that movie and talk about it. And then G-Fest content coming at you in July. We're going to hit Kai July pretty hard.
Totally. Some good stuff coming up. Dragonslayer is a cool movie. I like it a lot. I hope you like it too. I'm excited for that episode.
Coming soon to video cassette.
Based on the short story by Stephen King, the master of horror. The terror began in the fields. Then it grew stronger. Now, evil is about to show its face once again. Bill and Amanda Porter have just adopted 2 boys from the country.
Modest dress is the surest way to a pious life.
They seemed like nice boys.
Let us give thanks to he who walks behind the rows.
Don't worry about it. We'll get the hang of this.
But the Porters have no idea who they've just taken into their home.
Who the hell are you?
Prepare yourself for the third and most terrifying chapter. Children of the Corn 3, Urban Harvest.
Like my pa always said, you reap what you sow.
At precisely 10 a.m., in a quiet seaside village, something happened. Something unexplainable. Something unbelievable.
There's a lot of pregnancies, much more than would normally be expected. All the pregnancies seem to date from the day of the blackout.
Oh no. Now, this town is about to discover that looks can kill.
There have been a few casualties. I should say accidents that might be related to contact with the children.
My daughter was involved. Who are they?
They have one mind that they share between them.
Father?
Let us pray.
You've been discussing us with Dr. Vern. What did she tell you? You're hiding something.
The police can't do anything to stop the children.
Get out while you can.
There's something so much more powerful than we'll ever be.
What are you gonna do?
The only thing that we can do.
You can't stop us, you know. Don't try.
For generations, the Thorns have been a family of tremendous wealth, position, and power. The perfect marriage of Ambassador Robert Thorne and his wife Catherine was fulfilled by the birth of their son, Damien. And then, when the child was 5 years old, something terrible happened. And then it happened again. Was it an accident? Was it murder? Was it a coincidence? Or was it an omen?
Look at me, Damien. It's all for you.
20th Century Fox presents a film of psychological suspense about an occurrence of earth-shaking importance. Gregory Peck, Lee Remick, The Omen.
So what are our personal histories with this movie? I might start us off just because I have very little personal history with Children of the Corn. I finally saw it for the first time last night. I've always been curious about it because I think, like all of us, I grew up in the Midwest, and this just seems like such Midwestern horror movie filled with cornfields. And my friends and I, growing up in suburban Wisconsin, when we were bored, we would kind of go to cornfields late at night and like chase each other around and like pretend there were monsters in the cornfields. So this movie is like, it was kind of part of my childhood, even though I never actually saw it when I was a kid, just like something in the imagination. But yeah, that's my entire history with this movie. I know Naomi has a very in-depth history with this movie. What's your history with Children of the Corn?
Well, I love this movie. I have always liked this movie. And I'm not saying that it's the best film ever made, but I've always had a soft spot for it. I grew up in Cheyenne, Wyoming, which is right next to Nebraska. So it always kind of felt like, oh, yeah, like I know that place. But my kind of best experience with it was couple of years ago in the summer, or it was the August of 23. I was in Tokyo, Japan, and I had been in Japan for a couple weeks at that point. And it was on my radar to see a movie. I really wanted to see a movie theatrically in Japan just to see what that would be like. And I was traveling with my brother and sister, and they went off to do something else. So I found this time alone in Tokyo. I was like, okay, I got to see what is playing, what's around me that's playing, easy to get on the train and all that. And I came across this screening for Children of the Corn, and it was just so random and so crazy. But then I read a little bit about why, and it turns out that it was the 40th year that the film had been out, and it had never been screened theatrically in Japan at that point. So it was pretty cool to see, and so I was like, okay, I'm going to go to this screening. I can't wait. It's going to be so cool. It was one of those, really urban theaters where you have to like go inside a building and then up, and it doesn't feel like a theater like we would see here in the Midwest. So it's kind of hard to find, very mysterious. And I go in, and the whole lobby has these like really cute, like homemade decorations for people to pose with that are like related to the film. And so it was like, that little object that Linda Hamilton takes out of the suitcase that's like a crucifix with, shucks, like the corn and, stuff like that people could pose with. And they had merch, and it was just such a fun time. And it was just such a random movie that to see in a place like that. And I don't know, I just felt a little bit more like at home at that time, just sitting in this theater alone at night in Tokyo, watching this film that I had seen before, but, only, on VHS tapes in my living room as a kid. So it was just incredibly special screening to me. It'll always be a special film to me because of that. And I can't help. Can I just read you guys something real quick? Because I was always really tickled at the translation of the synopsis of this movie.
Please.
So it starts off with, one day a corn god suddenly fell upon a boy, and he became a guru. The story the
Holy Mountain.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. The story takes place in a small rural town called Nebraska. And the children in the town started adult hunting all at once. There are many movies in which children torment people like demons. But what is scary about this work is that such cute children with a good future could become an unstoppable fanatic cult group. I mean, if that doesn't say it all, like, and then they go on to saying how it's kind of similar to the Manson family. Let's see. Oh, yes. Isaac, a child guru in a black suit, is a very popular United States horror icon that you cannot forget once you see him. And I have to agree with that. So,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't remember the specifics of this movie, but the image in their head of Isaac or of Malachi, that sticks with you, I feel like. And even Matt, who said he hadn't seen it until last night, like was aware of that imagery just kind of floating around as, people our age watched movies and saw stuff. And we're just kind of a part of Stephen King's, movie universe growing up. And I'm a huge Stephen King fan. So I love this movie.
Yeah. And you, Naomi, there was some awesome merch at that screening too, right? Including the Children of the Corn shirt that you're wearing right now.
Oh, yes. I got everything they had. So they actually had two different shirts, two different Children of the Corn shirts. I'm wearing a black one right now. I was disappointed because I wanted there to be like kanji on the shirt, because I'm American, it would be cool. Like, look, this Japanese, shirt. But they probably had the opposite thought where, they wanted the English on it. So, this side has Isaac on it. And then the back has a picture of Linda Hamilton on it going up on the cross. And
Wow.
so I got one of those, a similar one in white. I got a booklet that the theater had put together that was really cool. I don't know what it says because it's all in Japanese, but I can tell it's a sort of retrospective on Stephen King and on the Children of the Corn franchise in general. So it's kind of sizable, it's beautiful. It's printed professionally. It's lovely. It was just a great artifact from that screening. And I also took home a poster that is the Japanese Children of the Corn poster, and that does have the kanji on it. And I had to carry that all the way home. Like, I didn't want to check it. I was only traveling really light with a carry-on. So I was holding that, sleeping for 15 hours on my flight. I got it in Tokyo, Japan. I took it to Okinawa for a week, and it made it all the way back home to my house. So
it has traveled the
it was
world.
worth it.
Yeah.
It has.
What I love about that is how much care this screening took. It sounded like it wasn't just some, backroom screening. It was an event.
Oh, it was such an event. It was such a good time. I just felt so good, but also lonely walking around that city by myself for a couple of days, that it just cemented itself into my head as a comfort, and also just a fantastic experience that I had never had before simultaneously. And I'll never forget it. And I'll think of that movie fondly for the rest of my days because of that.
That's amazing. Oh, wow. This movie is, it can worm its way into your heart a little bit. I first saw this movie, I think, in high school with my buddies, and we loved it. It became like, when you watch it as a group with a group of people too. And then we watched it again in college. It became a Halloween thing. I hadn't seen it since then, so that's 15 or so years ago. A bunch of us, we were all roommates. We would yell out, "Outlander, we have your woman," at various points without warning. It might have been when our girlfriends were over. I don't know. We all had really good rapport based on Children of the Corn.
Did you throw a knife at a Monopoly board? Hopefully not.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Yeah,
weapons were used. But what I can say is that I did carve a pumpkin with the silhouette of the classic image of this movie, with the arm in silhouette holding the scythe. That's the best jack-o'-lantern I've ever carved. Maybe I'll share a picture on the socials. So fast forward to now, I'm glad I got to revisit it in all its glory, and I did go ahead and watch the third movie in the series, which is called Children of the Corn 3: Urban Harvest. I skipped number 2 just because I knew I had limited time, and number 3's premise sounded so good, where 2 of the kids from Gatlin, different kids from the first one, but they get adopted by a Chicago couple. And the movie's set in Chicago. Chicago landmarks abound. And the Isaac stand-in in the third one, his name is Eli. He ends up growing a cornfield in the city, unleashing the God monster, and converting all the kids in his conservative Catholic high school. It's bonkers. The special effects are really good. It was a direct-to-video movie, but I loved it, unabashedly so, and think it's even better than the first one.
Wow.
Yeah, go figure.
I think that's fair, though. Yeah, I think that's fair. You skip the second one, and that's fine. The third one is really great. I don't know if I like it more than the first, probably just because of my own personal history, but every single person that has seen it likes it, that is into that kind of movie, of course.
Yeah.
Really good effects, Screaming Mad George, that says it all, I think.
Yeah, it's got a knowing sense of humor too, so the chemistry is perfect. But we could talk more about that later.
Wow. Well, forget the thing that couldn't die. I need to watch Children of the Corn 3 as soon as we're done recording. That's what my late night screening is going to be tonight.
Yeah, it's had more sequels than any other Stephen King, if I'm not mistaken. Like,
Yeah.
it just keeps going and going, and a lot of people find it to be like their least favorite horror franchise, which I think is wild, because of that. Like, it just keeps going, even other franchises, like, people have mixed feelings about a lot of the Hellraiser movies, for instance, but it's not as hated as this particular horror franchise, which is just wild.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine somebody hating at least this first movie. Like, I know, Naomi, you said it before, it might not be the best movie ever made, but like, it's not offensively bad, How could you hate this movie? Strange.
I think people find it boring. That's what I hear from people, like, at least in my own inner circle, they find it boring. I don't know. I thought it was good. I've always liked it. I have questions about some of the things that happen in the film. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's a good time. But I like most movies, so maybe I'm not the best taste judge here.
I think that's great. I mean, sometimes I'll just speak for myself. I can be a little critical about the movies we talk about sometimes on here. So to have a guest star who's like, I love movies. I love 90% of movies. That's great. I think we need that kind of positive energy, Manifest the energy you want to see in the world.
And we got a movie here, it's, Wicker Man meets Lord of the Flies. Like, what can you not love about this?
Yeah. That description does make it sound way better than it actually is. But still, it's a likable movie.
I liked a lot of this movie, but I also had questions about a lot of this movie. So my critiques aren't necessarily like, oh, that was unwatchable. It was why and how and who?
Logic is not this movie's strong point, for sure. Which is also true of the Stephen King short story, I would say.
Oh, I haven't read that. I was just going to say, there's questions like the kid in the trunk. Like, did they just decide collectively, we're going to forget about that kid? Like, the kid they hit at the beginning of the film, they're upset. They put him in the trunk. It's the kind of launch for all of their early parts of the plot, and then it's just kind of never brought up again. I got to wonder if that was in the short story or if it was just kind of a device to move things along. Maybe you can speak to that, Matt.
They do put the kid that they run over, whose throat was cut before he was run over, they do put him in the trunk in the short story, but then the ending of the short story is very different, so it makes sense why they wouldn't do anything with the corpse in the story. But there are so many other ways that the story doesn't make sense and just kind of like very vaguely goes into like the mythology of like the monster and how actually the kids rise up in this small town. It's very much focused only on Bert and Vicky in the short story. And like the kids are kind of like encountered at the end, but we don't really know what's going on with them all that much. That's how I would broadly describe the short story. So yeah, significantly different from the movie.
Is there like a guru? Is there a leader? Is there an Isaac?
There is an Isaac, and his name is Isaac in the short story too. But in the short story, we don't have any of the really over-the-top, amusing line readings that Isaac has in this movie. John Franklin, I think, is the actor's name. So yeah, with the short story, sorely misses that for sure.
Did anybody happen to notice that there was a copy of the book Night Shift visible on the dashboard, which has the short story printed in it, which is so cool. When we first see Vicky and what's the guy's name? First see the two main characters, driving in the car, you can see it on the dashboard, which is just so funny. And it's cool if you look at it, but if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was first published in a 1977 issue of Penthouse, which I would love to have that just as a Stephen King fan collector. Like, I would love to have that artifact.
That would be a piece. Yeah.
Yeah. I looked it up on eBay. It's not that expensive. Well, it's not that expensive, but yeah, so if you're listening out there, people, good gift idea for me.
Yeah, good to know. I think Night Shift also has Trucks, which became Maximum Overdrive, which we talked about in the last episode. So,
and it has other stories that became movies, including The Mangler, which is a 90s movie directed by Tobe Hooper. Is that right? Have you heard of this movie? It's about a killer washing machine.
Oh, gosh, I haven't seen that.
Matt's face when I said that.
That just reminds me that like we will never run out of movies on Camp Kaiju. There's a monster movie about everything, you know? Every possible appliance, every animal. It's already been done. Which is great. I love it. Yeah, I haven't heard of The Mangler. Is The Mist? I feel like The Mist might be in Night Shift too. Do you know if that's true?
I don't think it is.
Oh, okay. Never mind. That's from a different anthology that I read, but it must be a different one. Yeah.
There's a story called The Lawnmower Man, which became a movie, but it only took the name from the story. Otherwise, it's so different that King actually sued to have them stop using his name in promotions. There's a story called And Sometimes They Come Back, which was turned into a TV movie, I think, in the 90s. So this collection, Night Shift, has been a cornucopia of material for us cinephiles. That one was natural, right? I got that one in.
That was good. I liked it.
Well done. Yeah.
You mentioned Sometimes They Come Back. That is one of my favorite underrated Stephen King films. Like nobody's ever heard of it. It's doesn't have stars in it, but it's one of my favorites. See, every October for years, I gather my friends and family at my house and we play this game that I invented called Stephen Kingo.
That's right.
And and it's these 10 different cards. I update them every year or two, and they all have different Stephen King tropes on them. So we'll be watching a movie, and I'll say, there's a mystic simpleton, or hey, there's a scary old truck, or hey, there's a feuding married couple, or typewriter, or there's just so many tropes, and I just love the movie so much. And so long story short, I love to screen like a beloved Stephen King film and then a lesser known one, and that is typically one I'll reach for, especially if people haven't seen it yet, to include with something a little more well known. I've even had a local friend, Brad McGinty, who owns a store called Odd Mart here in Minneapolis. He is obsessed with the idea of me doing Stephen Kingo as a regular event at Odd Mart. And I'm like, not against the idea, but I just haven't thought through the mechanics of what that would be like with a crowd, So,
yeah.
But yeah, anyway, yeah, big fan. Love it. Love that movie. Sometimes They Come Back. Check it out.
I will. I love the title. I think it's a great title, and I definitely want to check it out.
Same. I'd never even heard of that. And I love the idea of Stephen Kingo, too. Hopefully that's a development in the near future.
I'm sorry, just one quick anecdote. I met Joe Hill last year at New York Comic Con. That's the son of Stephen King. And I told him about Kingo, and he thought it was awesome. Like, he loved the idea. He was so excited. He wanted to hear about the tropes. So, yeah, I was pretty excited about that. I was happy to get a photo with him and talk to him a little bit about his work and stuff, but I just had to get his opinion on Kingo. Maybe he was being polite, but it made my day for sure.
Joe, if you're out there, make a dream happen, Joe. Help us out.
Hit me up,
Official
Joe.
sponsor. Yeah. It's amazing. Well, yeah. Well, hopefully we'll talk a little bit more about Stephen Kingo later. But yeah, in addition to Stephen King, we'll talk about a couple of the other crew members here real quick. I'll just talk about the director, Fritz Kirsch, who maybe is not a huge name in horror movie history. No disrespect to Mr. Kirsch. One of his other big credits is a 1985 movie called Tough Turf, which is kind of like, youth crime sort of movie starring James Spader and Robert Downey Jr. Sounds promising. He has some other movies on his filmography that maybe don't sound amazing, but I still really want to see, including a notoriously campy sci-fi movie called Gore, G-O-R. He made a straight-to-video erotic thriller called Fatal Charm, which he took his name off of and used the pseudonym Alan Smithy. And every time that happens, I'm like, I gotta see this. How bad is it if the director took his name off of it, So he made that and then directed some episodes in the 1990 TV series Swamp Thing as well, which I remember watching as a kid, but don't remember very well. So yeah, Fritz Kirsch, not like the biggest director in Hollywood, because Children of the Corn was a very low-budget movie. This was his feature debut, but I'm sure we'll talk about the job he does behind the camera later in the episode.
There's a short documentary that I'll share in the show notes that I found really insightful, and Kirsch does a lot of speaking, And in terms of talking about his own movie and how he was approaching it, he was tapping into his love for movies, as he said, quote, like Day of the Triffids and Plan 9 from Outer Space. So both of those movies we've talked about on the podcast, and I just thought they were really interesting connections in the director's mind as he was going into Children of the Corn.
Yeah, you can see the love of B movies there, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm surprised that he didn't mention Village of the Damned, which is another movie about creepy little kids, which I thought of a lot while watching this movie.
Well, it's a whole genre unto itself.
The Omen. I almost brought up The Omen was on that list of films that, we had to talk that we could have brought up. And that one jumped out to me right away because when I think of evil kid movie, like The Omen is kind of the one that always comes to mind right away.
Yeah, The Bad Seed is another example of that. Yeah. I guess The Exorcist too, although that's kind of a different story. But, I feel like creepy kid movies like very widely in quality. It's a trope that I usually don't find very scary. And, it's hard. I think it's hard to find really talented child actors. But when they're able to do it, then it can be effective.
You have also been on record saying that killer plant movies don't work for you.
Yeah.
And what do you know? We have some corn stalks that come to life in this movie.
Yeah, it is several of my least favorite tropes in horror movies. So the fact that I don't hate this movie is kind of a good sign in itself, a green flag, if you will. One other crew member I wanted to talk about real quick, and then maybe I'll turn it over to you guys to talk about some of the cast members. But I also wanted to mention the cinematographer, whose name is João Fernandes. He's a Brazilian cinematographer. In this movie, he's working under the pseudonym Raul Lomas. He has kind of an interesting backstory. He actually started off as a cinematographer in pornography during the 1970s. And this was kind of like supposedly the golden era of pornography when it was a little bit more mainstream. You had movies like Deep Throat, The Devil and Miss Jones, and João Fernandes shot both of those movies. So, relatively mainstream movies in that category. And then he, later on in his career, by the 1984, he moved a little bit closer to mainstream movies, but still exploitation movies. He worked a lot in horror, including the slasher movie The Prowler, which is pretty good and very well shot, I would say. He was the cinematographer for Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter, which some people say is the best entry in that series. And then he moved a little bit closer to the action genre. He was the cinematographer for numerous Chuck Norris action movies, including Missing in Action from 1984 and Invasion USA from 1985. So, again, like Fernandez and the whole crew were working with a low budget with Children of the Corn. So, it's hard for him to really show off a lot of stylistic tricks maybe in this movie. But it looks pretty good. And I just think that's kind of an interesting backstory to gravitate or shift from a much maligned sort of category of movies to differently maligned genre movies that are maybe a little bit more in the mainstream, But yeah, let's talk about the cast a little bit. Vincent, do you want to talk about our leading lady?
Sure. Linda Hamilton is in this movie. Is it her feature film debut?
Not her debut, but she had smaller roles before this one.
Okay. But this was maybe her breakout. Well, I'll get to that. So anyways, Linda Hamilton, where do we begin? Well, she studied acting in New York under Lee Strasberg, the founder of the method movement in the United States. So if you think about all the other actors who came out of that school of training. And Linda Hamilton, started appearing in small film and TV roles in 1979. Now we get to 1984. You're thinking 1984, was she in The Terminator? She was in The Terminator, and that came out in October. And I was going to say, I think that's her breakout role, but Children of the Corn did precede it, coming out in March of 84. So a good year. She later appeared in Black Moon Rising, Murder, She Wrote, King Kong Lives, underrated. And later in her career, she did a lot of voice work for animated series like Batman Beyond, and theater work, including a stage adaptation of Laura, the 1944 film noir. Would love to see that on stage. Well, Linda Hamilton, she's a welcomed presence in this film. Starring opposite her is Peter Horton as Dr. Burt. And Dr. Burt and Linda Hamilton's character, Vicky, they're not married, but it's strongly implied that maybe they will. He has just finished his doctoral program, I think. Or no, he's about to start like his clinical apprenticeship type thing. Anyways, they're very excited to be together. The future is bright at the start of this movie. And anyways, Peter Horton is maybe best known for his role in the TV show 30-something. He also appeared in the TV series Saint Elsewhere, Dallas, and 8 is Enough. He later became a director for the TV series The Shield, The Wonder Years, and Grey's Anatomy. He directed the pilot episode, among others.
Naomi, do you know R.G. Armstrong? Are you familiar with this actor at all?
No, I was looking at these notes before the show, and I thought that was interesting. I was curious to hear more about that.
Yeah, he's great. He's a legendary character actor. He had a long career. He appeared in dozens of movies and TV shows. He worked a lot with Sam Peckinpah on movies like Ride the High Country, Major Dundee, The Ballad of Cable Hogue, Pat Garrett, and Billy the Kid. I feel like my first encounter with R.G. Armstrong was in Dick Tracy, the Warren Beatty movie from 1990, which has an amazing cast, including R.G. Armstrong as Pruneface, a very memorable character in that movie. So he's great. He just has like a good sort of like rough look. He plays a mechanic in this movie, not a huge role, but very memorable. They shot his scenes in one day, and just a good workman-like character actor.
Yeah, I recognize him now, his young self, now that I look him up, yeah.
Yeah, and he appeared in a lot of other Westerns. I think he was maybe in some film noirs early in his career as well. So just a recognizable face that, you know, even if you don't know the name, you probably be like, oh, I've seen him in movies before. And then we have some of the child actors in the movie as well, although John Franklin, who plays Isaac, the kind of maniacal preacher in this movie, was actually 24 years old when he played the character. He has a growth hormone deficiency that leads to his small stature and his kind of, you know, somewhat relatively high-pitched voice, so he's kind of able to play a child character. He also played Cousin It in The Addams Family from 1991. He gives a very, like, over-the-top performance in this movie. I think the dialogue is kind of ridiculous, not in a totally bad way. That's sort of in the campy category a little bit, but yeah, a unique presence in this movie, I would say, John Franklin.
Absolutely. He would return in the 6th sequel called Children of the Corn, Isaac's Return. No, actually it's called Children of the Corn 666, Isaac's Return. One of the lowest rated entries in the series, but he does return. And he is on that documentary I mentioned earlier. He had been in LA for 3 weeks when he landed this role. So he really hit the ground running in his move to LA, and playing his like main counterpart in the movie is the character Malachi, played by young actor Courtney Gaines. And Courtney Gaines is also on this documentary, and they're all much older now, reflecting on their time. And Gaines landed the role. In his audition, he was 17, and he like instantly in the room became Malachi. He was very brooding and had this like really sinister look on his face. And he was playing a scene with his audition partner, and Courtney Gaines pulls out a prop knife, but a knife nonetheless, out of nowhere, and holds it to his partner's throat. It shocked everybody in the room. And they basically said, yeah, you're Malachi. You did it. You got the job. And everyone's laughing about it now. But that's wild.
I can only imagine being his scene partner during that audition.
I would have peed my pants.
I'm impressed with his interpretation of the character and his want to do it. That would turn my head too if I was working in casting. I love him. I think he's great. I think he adds so much. He's almost as memorable as Isaac, you know, in a lot of ways. And I think he adds something different too, because he's almost a teenager, which is like kind of a separate fear that people have, teenage boys versus kids. And just, you know, his red hair. My partner has red hair, and we always joke about kind of how movies use red hair to say different things, you know, like, you know, sometimes they're a nerd or you know, tough Irish cop or whatever. And I think it helps a lot with Malachi. You know, his whole look, he's just perfect. I couldn't picture anyone else in that role.
He has a lot of presence, and you know, however maybe green the actor might be, yeah, he almost steals the show. Like, Malachi is such a great character. And his relationship with Isaac is really compelling for a lot of different reasons.
Totally. I love it how he's so intense throughout the movie. And then at the end, when things are kind of revealed, they show him and he looks so scared.
Yeah.
And he's just convincing. And it kind of, tugs on your empathy as a watcher because, he's really violent throughout the movie, probably the most violent of any of the kids. And you just see like his eyes wide and him terrified and it touches you, or at least it touched me a little bit. Just to see kind of that difference, it's like I didn't know he could get that emotive, at least in a soft way. Yeah,
and he looks very much his age when he breaks down. I'm like, oh, you are 17, you are a child, acting tough, and yeah, it's a great transformation.
Yeah, especially because there does turn out to be this demon in the cornfields, so you wonder it's haphazardly explained perhaps, but you understand why these kids would feel the pressure, feel the need to sacrifice their parents and kill all these people to sacrifice them to the demon in the cornfield, he who walks behind the rows. And I just thought, this movie is about evil kids, but also there is actually a demon and a monster there who's kind of forcing them to do these things, Yeah. And the ending with Malachi hammers point that home, I would say.
It wants you too, Malachi.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Zombie Isaac. Oh, man. That's great.
Yeah. Shocking moment. Indeed.
Yeah.
I actually love that ending, though. I think that's cool because you just assume that, all of the religious zealots in the community, all of the kind of fundamentalism is based on something that cannot be proved, that is entirely faith-based. So we see this evidence of it becoming real at the end, and it's fun in that way. It's kind of shocking in a way, and I always loved that. As a kid, I did not see that coming, so I thought that was really cool. Because as a kid, I just assumed, I knew about fanatical people. Some people are really religious; they believe in this, whatever. So I was just surprised at that at the end. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, some really cool visual effects too, when this sort of I don't know, this fog almost, these red bubbles are taking over Isaac when he's crucified on the cornstalk or whatever. Really cool looking. I loved visually the way that appears in the movie.
I agree. I think it is cool. And some people would say, I was reading some reviews on Letterboxd and some people were saying, that the effects were really bad and things like that. I find it charming. I liked it. I did not mind it at all. Even at the end when he kind of turns in, it's a sort of wider shot of the puff of smoke or whatever you would call it, and it has a face in it. It's almost kind of Disney-like. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I like it. To me, it works. I like those. I wouldn't expect anything different from 1984. I like it. I don't want it to be realistic and weird. It does it for me. I like it. So the production backstory: Stephen King had wrote the initial screenplay, which was optioned by director Harry Weiland and producer Joseph Maysfield. They had arranged financing from HBO and 20th Century Fox, but the latter had pulled out of the deal, leading to a $2 million shortage of funds. So there was a period of several years followed in which the movie rights were owned by a number of different companies. Finally, Hal Roach Studios acquired the rights and hired George Goldsmith to rewrite the script. And something interesting about George Goldsmith that I just want to throw in there is he was a martial artist. He wrote the 70s martial arts epic. It's a TV called Force 5, which was the inspo for Tarantino's Fox Force 5 that he refers to in Pulp Fiction. I just thought that was interesting. Yeah.
I had no idea about that connection. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was crazy. So one of Goldsmith's screenplay drafts made its way to New World Pictures, which I had mentioned earlier, Roger Corman's production company. He started that in 1970. And which agreed to co-produce the film with Hal Roach Studios. It quickly went into production before corn in the Midwest could ripen. King's initial screenplay was seen as uncinematic, so Goldsmith introduced two new characters, the children Job and Sarah, to provide a more compelling perspective. King was unhappy with the changes, at least at that time, claiming Goldsmith didn't understand the horror genre, while Goldsmith countered that King didn't understand the visual exterior nature of movies. as opposed to literature. The producers, in any case, they went with Goldsmith's rewrite. The film was initially offered to director Sam Raimi, who wanted more prep time, and Tommy Lee Wallace, who had just directed Halloween 3: Season of the Witch, but turned it down. So Fritz, how do you say his last name?
Kirsch, I believe.
Fritz Kirsch, the director of this film, Fritz Kirsch, who had primarily worked in advertising beforehand, then won the job. So from then, the film was primarily shot in Iowa, with some pickup shots filmed back in California. So it wasn't shot on location in Nebraska, but definitely has that real Midwest look and feel to it. And all in all, quick production schedule of only 4 weeks. So they got it and made it fast. So much of the $1.3 million budget went to Stephen King for the rights. Director Fritz Kirsch says the working budget was only about $800,000, which is not much. Some local townspeople from southwestern Iowa acted as extras or in minor roles. And it had some innovative special effects. So the movements of He Who Walks Behind the Rose were achieved by dragging an upside-down wheelbarrow through a ditch with an airplane cable. And the visual effects of the Doomsday Clouds used test footage filmed for a motorcycle commercial. That's really interesting. Super interesting.
Thank you so much, Naomi. In addition to like the kind of red bubbly splotches that take over Isaac, I think like that doomsday cloud that like billows in at the end looks great. I love those visuals.
I was going to say the director said that the wheelbarrow effect cost $50 to put together. And it's just, why are studios spending hundreds of millions of dollars on all this computer stuff when you could spend $50 and some pocket lint and get an effect that looks incredible?
Yeah.
It's just, you can't beat it.
Great question.
It does look pretty good. And, however you feel about this movie, even if you don't like it, you have to admire how innovative and resourceful they were for $800,000. That's amazing. Even at that time, that would have been a super low budget.
The locations were filmed in and around Sioux City, Iowa, which is the western part of the state. My wife is from that area. So I've been to Sioux City. I haven't been to the small town of Whitting, where the main town square location is. But I was researching today, and it's still a know-nothing town. Like 700 people live there. But that square still exists. The storefront still exists, like to the cafe and stuff. And just a couple of years ago for the 40th, there was a big screening there in the town. And people did location tours, and it was like a big thing. Children of the Corn. So, guys, we're only 6 hours away. We can do it.
I would go. That sounds awesome. I would do that. I would totally do that.
I do find, maybe we'll talk about this with the themes in a little bit, but I do find, like, really small rural towns in the middle of nowhere very creepy. And it's weird how, like, movies or whatever, the cultural imagination has done this to us, where, like, small towns seem so much creepier and scarier than big cities, even though, like, statistically, I love living in the big city. I love big cities, but, like, if something were to happen to you, it probably would be there, But, like, there's something about it. Something about small towns,
Yes. And I grew up in small towns, in and around small towns in Central Florida. And my view is that for lack of a better word, any corruption that exists, it's under the surface in a small town. It's in the woods. You're not gonna see it. It's in the basements. It's on the edges. But what's underneath that Main Street smile? That's what kind of scares me.
That's a good point. Yeah. There's the illusion of like everybody's a great neighbor, like, it's just like bucolic, perfect, sunny small town, but something's going on there,
Well, everyone's got troubles, and whether or not you're in a small town or a big town, it's all there.
And I think there's always been, as long as there's been small and big towns anywhere, there's been a tension between big and small town life, big and small town rituals, things like that. Because really, when you get down to a movie like this, is a folk horror film. And those are almost always about protecting a way of life and preserving that way of life. And we see that those themes really, really resonate in times like now, where people are still in rural places trying to protect their way of life from threats they perceive from, liberal metropolises or whatever. There's tension between rural communities and the science of medicine. Bert's a doctor. I'll tell you, the kids of Gatlin are probably not vaccinated,
Right. Yeah.
Let's be real there. But yeah, that tension between small and big town has existed everywhere. And I think that there's a little bit of that playing underneath the surface of this film.
Definitely.
Yeah, all really good points. Not to mention the religious fanaticism that we definitely see through Isaac, but we also hear it on the radio early in the movie where, Bert turns on the radio and it's this preacher on the radio, just railing against the sins of humanity and how everybody is doomed and everything. And yeah, that generally is equated more with small towns than big cities. I'll just talk about the release and legacy real quick of Children of the Corn, and then we'll have our sponsor break. So this movie did receive mostly negative reviews. Roger Ebert, who we talk about a lot on this show, gave it a 1-star review, and he wrote, "By the end of Children of the Corn, the only thing moving behind the rows is the audience, fleeing to the exit."
Oh.
Go shuck yourself, Roger.
There it is. Nice. Corn pun number 2. We'll have to have a little ding every time on the episode that we have.
Like a popcorn, like a corn pop.
Yeah.
Pop.
Perfect. It turns out audiences didn't really like this movie either. They were polled by CinemaScore and rated the movie a D+ at the time that it came out. But it has become a little bit of a cult movie. Retrospective reviews have been a lot more favorable. Rolling Stone ranked Children of the Corn number 7 on its list of the top 30 Stephen King adaptations, which did surprise me, I have to admit. Yeah, there are a lot of good ones out there.
I feel like that's a little high.
Yeah, you have to wonder what's lower on the list. Is Misery lower than Children of the Corn? That would be crazy.
Oh my gosh. It better not be.
Yeah.
I love Misery, but yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I love both films, but yeah, that is surprising. It makes you wonder what their merit is. Is it how good the film is, how lasting it is culturally, how many sequels it produced? I don't know what their criteria is.
Yeah, that's a good point. And yeah, on that subject, Children of the Corn, Children of the Corn, it's kind of a tongue twister, did spawn a franchise that by now includes 8 sequels, a 2009 remake, and a 2023 reboot. This actually does not include a 1983 short film called Disciples of the Crow. So that came out before Children of the Corn and was actually the first adaptation of Stephen King's short story, which I would like to see. I don't know a lot about that.
I hadn't even seen it. Have you, Naomi?
No, but I made a story about preparing for this episode earlier, and one of my followers messaged me about it, and I looked it up. I'd never heard of it before.
Wow.
I was intrigued by the title, but yeah, I would love to check that out.
Yeah,
definitely.
And then one more note about the release of the movie. It did make a profit, even if it didn't get great reviews. Again, the budget was only $3 million, but it earned $14.6 million at the box office, so a pretty sizable profit there. Camp Kaiju is brought to you by Zach Linder and the Zach Pack, powered by Coldwell Banker Realty. Whether you're looking for your dream home, a savvy investment property, or expert guidance in home rehab and flipping, the Zach Pack has you covered. Check the link in the show notes for more information. Vincent, what do we have in Mini's mailbox today?
We have a few things I just wanted to read off because, Matt, this is our last recording, proper recording for a while. So I wanted to throw in a couple of good comments from folks. So we have Jim Cheney via our Patreon, and a perk, as you all know, your comments are tops if you are a paying Patreon member. And Jim loves to take full advantage of this, and he said in response to my call for any questions, comments, or corny puns, he says, "Oh yeah, Children of the Corn. Think the kids are all right? I remember this one really well. We went to the theater to see this. At the time, it was scary and fun. We had a cornfield, and we had to go through to get to my friend's house. We made it through quickly." He goes on to say, "This movie is entertaining with a cult following, but I prefer Maximum Overdrive. There really isn't anything memorable other than the opening scene at the diner. Ew. I honestly don't get why there's so many other movies. Continuations? I've only seen part 2. I was good without continuing after that. Bless your heart if you're doing all of them. Jim, I'm not. So you could rest easy. And then he finishes up saying, I personally don't think this one stands the test of time. It's good for 1 or 2 viewings. Being a huge Stephen King fan, I'll keep with the book. Night Shift is an excellent book. Can't wait to hear what you can say. Stay campy. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Love that. Getting to see it in the theater back in the day. That, I don't know, Naomi, that seems just as cool as seeing it in Japan.
No, I think that's so cool. I would have loved to see that, see people reacting to it. You know, teenagers on dates, like everybody there would have been so fun to see that. I think it's cool. I'm glad we got to hear from somebody who was there.
Yeah. Continuing on, we have a comment from Lilith on Instagram. And Lilith says 3 is underrated. Children of the Corn 3. Amazing screaming mad George effects. Growing up in rural eastern Nebraska, it seems like everyone had a family member who was in the first movie. Lilith goes on to say, 2 has its moments, but not as charming as 1 or bonkers as 3. Just like the Silent Night, Deadly Night series, Screaming Mad George brings that certain something special. And then Sean Pryor, the one and only, said on Instagram, they made 6 of these?
Yeah. The incredulity is appropriate, I would say there.
Thank you all for writing in. Keep them coming. We could talk about Children of the Corn on a King Kong Escapes episode. If the comment is there, we'll read it. So keep them coming. Oh, and Matt, this one's for you. A Redditor recommended to a user to check out our episode about Mimic. You remember when we did that one?
Absolutely. Yeah, that was a fun episode.
We did that in 2022. And this commenter on Reddit said, Camp Kaiju is a fun monster horror podcast that did an episode on Mimic a few years ago. Then they provided a link. So that was really, really neat to see our podcast talked about in a forum like that.
Amazing. And like that is back in the archives a little bit. That's so cool to see.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks to that Reddit user, Big Suggs looks like the username. We appreciate you. And if you haven't seen Mimic, check it out. It's a fun, weird, interesting movie.
Totally. And just real quick, Bela Lugosi Meets a Brooklyn Gorilla is the name of a movie from 1952. And Peter Lorre, he's winding down the Poverty Row Picture Show before his next adventures. Who knows what series he will cover next, but Mr. Lorre will always be a co-host on Camp Kaiju, so stay tuned, listeners. And he's going to close out the Poverty Row Picture Show with a film called Bela Lugosi Meets a Brooklyn Gorilla, a horror film that will stiffen you with laughter. And that is the tagline. And our Letterboxd review says, the entertainment duo Mitchell and Petrillo, en route to a USO show for troops in Guam, fall out of their plane and end up on a jungle island called Cola Cola, where the mad scientist Dr. Zabor is conducting evolutionary experiments. So, what does that do for you?
I'm a little nervous to watch that movie, but at least Peter Lorre is doing, he's sacrificing himself. He's doing the Lord's work. God bless him.
The work for he who walks behind the rose.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's why Peter is doing all of it, just to appease he who walks behind the rose.
Whoa, I got to talk to him about that. I got to check in on him. At all this time, I thought he was working on his own volition, but maybe he's been possessed.
Yeah, he's the giver of his word, I believe is what the... No, I was talking to my dog in the Isaac voice this afternoon after I watched the film. So.
That was a good impersonation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Amazing. Well, Peter, we wish you the best.
Welcome to the Poverty Row Studios on the other side of Hollywood, where the stars were dimmer and the red carpets dripped with blood. Together, we will watch the best of the worst, movies known for their limited budgets, outlandish concepts, and questionable performances. but with enough haunted houses, zombies, ape men, and devil bats to keep you up at night. This is the Poverty Row Picture Show, and I dare you to sleep through these nightmares. Listeners, run for your lives. Get out while you still can. Yes, that rodent from hell, that fiend from the floorboards has returned. Yes, I am talking about Pierre. What do you mean you do not remember? Years ago, when I was ungraciously resurrected from the dead by Matthew and Vincent to review classic horror films, I was locked in a recording booth. I only had my mind and a microphone. Madness pursued my waking hours, and then, in the darkest of those hours, a savior appeared from a hole in the wall. A little mousy compadre named Pierre. He would help me review silent horror movies, and we had terrific chemistry. That is, until the little rat bastard started to hog the limelight. Then one day he took a meat cleaver to my face. I survived, and all he ended up rendering that day was our partnership. And he fled to where I knew not. Until now. Now it would appear that Pierre has found a rat hole in the stars, and that he is somehow responsible for the wicked transformation of my love, Lenore, into a raven. Now, I must battle Pierre once and for all, and save my beautiful birdie bride. Talk about life getting away from you, huh? Well, if it is any consolation, dear listeners, I will conclude the Poverty Row Picture Show with one last hurrah. Yes, I am going to discuss a film entitled Bela Lugosi Meets a Brooklyn Gorilla. From 1951, it stars the comedic duo Duke Mitchell and Sammy Petrello. Look these guys up, I'm telling you, they are literally a knockoff of Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. And if that ain't weird enough, here they run afoul of a mad scientist played by aging Bela Lugosi as he schemes to turn Duke Mitchell into a gorilla. So-called hilarity ensues. No, dear listeners, it would seem that the only things that this film has going for it are Bela himself and the title itself. So if you are morbidly curious or wish pain unto yourself, then Bela Lugosi Meets a Brooklyn Gorilla is for you. So alas, my friends, on that note, I must bid you adieu. I will send a proper goodbye in the coming weeks when Camp Kaiju reviews King Kong Escapes. For now, I must set my sights on that little devil who lurks in the black void of space. Pierre, I am coming for you.
For every season, there is a time for friendship.
Maybe I want you to stick around.
A time for love.
Don't be scared. We were destined.
And a time for terror. Isaac is back.
Now is the day of salvation.
To fulfill the final prophecy.
Finish it.
Don't be afraid.
It's your soul that's gonna burn in hell.
I don't have a soul.
So yeah, let's dive into Children of the Corn a little bit more and talk about the themes in the movie. I think this movie does have some themes, even though it's also very silly and campy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first?
It wants you too, Naomi. Yeah, this movie, I was watching another documentary. Matt, maybe you watched the same thing, I'm not sure, from the screenwriter. And George Goldsmith says that he was inspired by the 1979 Islamic Revolution in Iran for this movie. And I went, what? And he goes on to say, even our old man character, the guy at the gas station, is a metaphor for American oil companies. I was like, what? That is so unexpectedly deep. But from the man's mouth, like, that was an inspiration for this movie. But on a deeper level, it also speaks to religious fundamentalism and the blind following of religious leaders and theocracies.
I totally agree. I think the power of storytelling is a big part of this. Like, the real weapon is not like the violence, it's the narrative that Isaac has. You know, he tells the children who they are, why they exist, what their suffering means, and he like kind of controls the community with that. You know, just that power of storytelling. You know, so he's like this mix of preacher, politician, storyteller, like all wrapped up in one little package.
Right. Like, I think that theme definitely comes through. I don't know if I totally buy the Iranian Revolution thing, because of course there are so many like social and political and historical specifics to that of course Children of the Corn cannot and does not talk about. But like, as a broader comment on religious fanaticism, that's absolutely definitely there. And that's, you know, that's a frequent trope in Stephen King stories. I don't know if it's on the Stephen Kingo card, but it, you know, perhaps it is. Like, that's in Carrie. It's even in Maximum Overdrive a little bit. Like, so it's a common theme in his works. But yeah, I think it's especially disturbing here because it is a child who is that fanatical preacher, and it kind of makes you realize, and this is actually in the Stephen King story too, a little bit, like how some kids at a very young age are indoctrinated to, you know, to believe that like being a good Christian or Catholic or whatever religion it is like how to be a good person and can lead to some like, you know, maybe not great behavior down the road. Like, that's an unsettling theme, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like how objective what being a good person means. I mean, he's killing like a doctor and you know, two nice people, and they're only punished because they're just in this community and not following the rules of the community, even though they don't know them. And you know, they're sort of not as pure as the community is. You know, children are pure. They're kind of representative of the adults like they killed at the beginning. I don't think it was just a power grab. I think that it was an interpretation of what's pure, what's not. Yeah.
That makes me think about the relationship between Isaac and Malachi and how they're two sides of this fanaticism where even Isaac, who as corrupt as he is, he still has a sense of rationale, and he's like, no, don't kill Sarah because she is the power of sight. Don't kill the gas station attendant because we need him practically for power and fuel. Meanwhile, Malachi he's got blinders on. He's short-sighted in the ways of like surviving. He's just all about the violence, and we see him revolt and rebel against Isaac, which is a dynamic that's really interesting in life, but also in other media that maybe a movement falling in on itself, falling victim to itself, internal fighting.
Yeah, and for Malachi, it does kind of seem like more of a conventional power grab, you know? Like, I don't know if he really believes the mythology of it, but he's using it as a shortcut to, like, you know, defeat Isaac and take over power himself.
For sure. I don't think he believes it himself. He believes it at the end, right? When we talked about his realization.
Yeah.
So that supports that transition for himself.
I wanted to bring up a theme that I thought was kind of interesting, which is, you know, we spend a lot of time with Vicky and Bert. And like, you're right, Vincent, that at the beginning they do seem like a pretty happy couple, but also like in the first scene of the movie, or well, the second after the deli or the kitchen, the diner massacre, then we're introduced to Vicky and Bert, and Bert's, you know, Vicky kind of playfully says like, oh, is that a marriage proposal? And Bert's like, no, it's not. So like there's some tension, you know, and like there's the question of like, how serious are they? And I feel like the evil of kids in this movie kind of reflects their anxiety about having children and like getting married and starting a family, you know? I don't really know if that was intentional, but it kind of worked for me. And then I think at the end of the movie, to kind of give away a spoiler here, there's a happy ending where Vicky and Bert do come together and they even adopt two of the kids and then like drive away with them to Seattle, presumably with that child's corpse still in the trunk of the car, but we don't really know that. But anyway, I think it does kind of work as like reflecting their anxiety, and then by the end of the movie, they've learned to kind of be like, all right, yeah, we want to do this. We want to start a family and have kids, you know?
Yeah, I agree, because there's several times when they sort of have tension of how they're going to handle, talking to the little girl, getting information out of her despite her being traumatized. I agree with that reading, and I think it's really sharp because I don't know. I was sort of feeling that way as I was watching it too, but as a child-free millennial who has these own thoughts about, should I have children? Am I ready? What would that mean for my career? Things like that. I kind of related to those guys in that way, even though they're quite a bit younger than me.
No, it's a universal theme, I think. And Vincent, you do, of course, have a daughter, but I wonder if maybe you can relate to that a little bit too, or not. Like, I'm just curious what you thought about that.
Yeah.
I would imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, talk to Ellen, my wife. Certainly so. But yeah, that's it's a fear of it's a big unknown. And I would agree that Children of the Corn taps into that anxiety that I think anyone, whether or not you have children, plan to have children, don't want children, you're probably going to think about that part of a life at some point. And there's just questions you can't answer, which can be and is often unsettling in a way because you don't have any control once you decide to go down that path.
Well, and your job is not over when they're done being children or during that time, because, we see with Malachi, he's kind of, we see a glimpse of what happens when they get too old and like what has to happen there. And like Malachi's kind of knocking on that door. And then we see this ceremony in the church where it's kind of a Logan's Run sort of vibe where you get to a certain age. I think it's 17 in the film. And then, there's this sacrifice, this whole ritual. But yeah, like I said kind of earlier in the episode, that I think that there is a inherently different tension in dealing with a teenager, especially a teenage boy, than there is in dealing with a child. And I think that's part of just what makes Malachi so scary and just what makes you worry about these kids, because on another level, because that even under the best of circumstances, time marches on, they're going to age. They're
going to end up being offered to he who walks behind the rows. Malachi knows this. In discussing this movie, I understand his motivations now to rebel against Isaac. It's for self-preservation. If he doesn't do this, I mean, when's his birthday? He's old. He's of age now. He's thinking, I got to take down Isaac or I'm toast. Not a corn pun. Dang. But maybe a critique I have of the film is I didn't get that in the moment. But it's still there for what it's worth.
Yeah, the movie could definitely do a better job of like conveying plot specifics about, and maybe even some of the underlying like metaphors of like, moving from childhood to your teenage years to adulthood, which is like, a difficult, loaded process. And the movie definitely could have tapped into that a little bit more. That's not really what it's trying to do, but like that subtext is there, you know what I mean?
But yeah. I mean, they all make for really powerful themes. We've talked about so many really heavy foods for thought in this, and I just, again, getting ahead of myself, I just wish the movie could have been a little bit more explicit in those character motivations, in those messagings.
Yeah, kind of piggybacking on that, I see like kind of a theme of a loss of complexity or a loss of nuance. And I think that we see that a lot in society today, just in general. And you see it a lot in, faith-based communities too. Everything in Gatlin is extremely binary. There's believers, there's unbelievers, there's residents, there's, outliers, there's the pure and impure, the chosen, the condemned. And that complexity is kind of treated as a weakness in that faith-based system. And I think extremist systems always want to simplify the world in that way and take away the complexity, take away the nuance. And I just see that as a caution in it. And maybe it's just me kind of projecting my own thoughts and feelings about what we go through in society today. But I see that as a theme, as something that jumped out to me and made me think about that, especially being that they're kids and they have a tendency to think in a binary way anyway when you're a child. that nuance is hard to spot. It takes a while. It takes life experience to see the nuance in situations.
Yeah, I love that. Awesome. So yeah, we, as always on Camp Kaiju, we talk about the good, the bad, and the campy. Let's start with the good. I might have to think about this for a minute, so I'm going to turn it over to both of you first for the good stuff.
Okay. I liked the this is really little, but the I think low key the best child actor in this movie is the girl who plays Rachel, who's the girl preacher cultist figure.
Mm-hmm.
That actor's name is Julie Madalena. She just had such a presence and just like a rooted, grounded attitude. I was more scared of her than any of the other actors, honestly.
Yeah, she stuck out to me too, though, and she doesn't come until later, and it makes you wonder what a woman's role is in that community, what a child turning into a woman's role in the community is. But yeah, I thought she was interesting. Added a little bit of complexity to their community, I thought.
I got, this is also kind of campy, but the dummy effect for that kid who gets nailed by the car, that dummy is so good. Because oftentimes in a movie, a dummy is a dummy, and you could tell. But the way it's just like, it's a quick cut, and it flies a mile when it's hit by a car. I was just like, that's a great dummy. Good job, props department.
Yeah, a shocking moment.
Yes.
To say the least, yeah.
I actually like that this film is in the Stephen King world, is set in Nebraska, because so many of his films, it's all about Maine. That's just a big part of who he is. So, a movie like this set in Nebraska, we got movies like, The Shining set in Colorado, like just being a kid growing up in Wyoming, that always kind of, those stories touched me specifically because of geographic closeness to where I was from. So I like that about it. It's unique in that way, and it's just cool in that way. I like that Stephen King gave us a little glimpse into that. I like the cast. I like the cast, adult and child alike. I thought Linda Hamilton was really charming, and she offered a lot of kind of good play against the severity, a bit of severity to the man character, to the partner. They have times where they're arguing. He actually has the audacity to enter someone's home, and she's like, "You can't do that. Don't go in there." And he's like, "I just want to use the phone." I thought she was great, and just a voice of reason throughout. But I kind of wanted better for her at the end. I thought she was maybe a little too good for him. Yeah. But I thought Definitely. The kids were great, super memorable. Those kids, they were memorable to me as a kid.
I think the cast is a little hit or miss for me, and I'll talk about that more in the campy section as well. But I think the fact that, at least some of the actors are like townspeople from the Iowa towns where they shot the movie, has a certain sense of authenticity, or at least uniqueness. It's not overly sort of actors giving a performance. It seems a little bit more offbeat than that, I guess. I think I like the suspense in this movie as opposed to some of the horror, which I'll talk about in a second. But the suspense, I think, is pretty well done. I think some of the scenes, like you were talking about the moment, Naomi, where they go into the house and then they see the girl upstairs in the bedroom. I think that scene is really well shot and very suspenseful. And when they're trying to figure out what's going on, when they hit the kid and then Bert's kind of going through the cornfield, I think that's pretty suspenseful as well. So yeah, I think good job at suspense. And I think some of we talked about this before, but the special effects on a low budget, pretty well done. They look very unique, better than, a modern day CGI would look in some cases. So yeah, lots to like. Mm-hmm. I'll just leave it at that for the sake of time. There are some other things I like in this movie, but let's move on to the bad category. Maybe since I mentioned the suspense, maybe I'll just go real quick and talk about a distinction, what distinction I meant by that, which is that the horror didn't really affect me all that much. I think the violence is not very convincing in this movie. And I think the opening scene in the diner is a good example of that, because it should be such a shocking moment. All these kids are butchering the adults in this town. And I didn't buy any of it for a second. It's all kind of quick cutting and obviously fake blood. And in that opening scene and some of the other violent moments, I did not get a strong sense of directorial style and like, you know, using composition and editing to like really ramp up the horror. I didn't get a strong sense of that. So I think this movie is good at suspense and bad at horror. Although I do like the last scene, so that's kind of like a little caveat that I would add there.
Well, I think it's really interesting you say that, Matt, because in this documentary, again, the director talked about his approach to the violence. And he says he was trying to tap into what Hitchcock would do, like in Psycho, where you never actually see the knife penetrate, but you show the weapon. And so that is what he was trying to do in the diner scene. And I agree with you. It kind of comes off as more maybe pastiche if it was trying to emulate a master like Hitchcock. Yeah. And maybe I think it was a lack of suspense, honestly.
I mean, it's a bold move to compare your movie to the shower scene in Psycho. And I think like
he did.
Yeah, like there is so much about that scene that makes it work. It's the quick cutting, it's the music and the like sound effects, it's the camera angles themselves, and that's kind of where I think Children of the Corn does not work quite as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, like the jump scares to me all seemed a little flat. Everything seems kind of flat to me. Maybe it's the cinematography. So like it's not a poorly paced movie, but if I wouldn't call this movie boring, but if somebody did, I would attribute that to maybe the flatness of the picture, of the construction of suspense and horror. It just seems to me like it's trying too hard. It just shows a lot of knives and kids with weapons. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't feel scared by anything.
Yeah.
Maybe that sounds harsh.
What you guys are saying is I think super fair. And something that I didn't really feel as much because I saw it as a kid and it was scary. So it just sticks with me in that way. But as an adult, the violence being cheesy doesn't really bother me as much because I feel, you know, that the violence is in the rhetoric. It's in the narrative. It's in that storytelling. And as an adult, you know, with adult brains, we can connect those dots and think of those things. But I actually didn't mind. I even though I don't disagree with you guys at all, I think that, you know, you see the splatter on the kid's face and, you know, there's something silly about it. But for me, it works. I don't mind it. I guess I don't mind it because the other violent themes, I think I read and I'm fine with.
I think that's a huge, important distinction to make. The age in which you view this, the lens in which you view it, what is scary evolves with a person over time. Yeah, so I agree. And I don't hate this movie. I find it, again, really charming and more sinister. But the overt violence, I was like, you know.
Yeah. And maybe there is even something a little bit charming about the lack of effectiveness of the violence, you know?
Yeah.
Do you have any critiques about the movie, Naomi? If not, if you want to keep it totally positive, that's all right.
Yes, I could do a couple critiques. Like, I wish we heard a little bit more, like, kind of what happened, like, what was the problem with the adults, what kicked everything off. We talked about that a little bit. I think it would have been rich to hear a little bit more about the backstory of it. Sheesh. I guess that's about it, really. I mean, I don't have high demands of this film. To me, it checks the boxes for me. Of course, it's not perfect, but I enjoy it. I think it's good. It's nostalgic in all the right ways for me.
That's great. I love that. I think we all agree there is a lot of camp in this movie, most of which is great and so much fun to watch. Like, real briefly for me, I'll say it's mostly Isaac. Like, every time Isaac opens his mouth in this movie, I just laugh, which I don't know. I don't think that's the intended effect, but it's like, again, it adds to the charm and like the camp value. Doesn't make it scary, but it does. Like, I will remember Isaac's ridiculous voice in this movie for sure.
Me too.
I will remember Malachi's ridiculous voice. He says to Isaac, because Malachi caught Job and Sarah in the room, and he says to Isaac, "They were playing a game and music. They are forbidden."
Yeah.
It's like, what is this? What is his voice?
It's that mouth, you know, that Malachi mouth. It can just really enunciate and say all the things.
Yeah,
know? I know exactly what you're talking about.
They are forbidden.
They're forbidden.
and of course, like the line that you mentioned before, Vincent, like, "Outlander, we have your woman." Like that moment. So campy, so ridiculous.
iconic, though,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I gotta say, the coda at the end of this film, when they've left the cornfield and the Rachel, the girl, she gives us that jump scare in the back seat. I thought all of that was so hokey because not in the idea, but the way it was directed. There's just like, oh, and then he he just knocks her out with the car door. She's out cold, and he's like, well, let's start walking. And then the actors kind of stand there as the camera zooms out and the credits roll. I don't know. It was weird.
It's so weird. And like when I went to that Japanese screening, the movie ended and I found a very like particular cultural quirk is that Japanese people stay until the credits are over. I definitely like had time to sit and think about that. Like, you know, as it ended, like how I wonder if that's the way it is in the book. Like how long would it take them to walk?
In the book, they don't make it out, Bert and Vicky. They are both sacrificed to the corn god. And it's a very hopeless ending. The corn god eats them up, and we're left to wonder what's next for this community.
Yeah. Cool. Well, perhaps it's time to dive into our ratings. As always on Camp Kaiju, we have 4 ratings for the film. Number 1, our highest rating. It's a timeless classic. It definitely stands the test of time. Number 2, there may be some antiquated moments, but overall it's great. It stands the test of time. Number 3, it may be historically significant or just fun, but it does not stand the test of time. And our lowest rating, it's not worth revisiting. It definitely does not stand the test of time. I feel like my rating might be on the more negative side, so I kind of want to go first, and then we can turn it over to the more positive reviews, if that sounds good to you both.
Sure, I'll go after you because I think we'll increase our positive ratings here if you go you, me, Naomi.
Yeah, which I love. Cool. We'll go out on a happy note, a positive note. But I'm not going to give this our lowest rating. I do think this movie's fun. It's charming in a lot of ways. It does do a lot of good, resourceful, innovative things on a low budget. And, the camp value is entertaining. I don't know if it really achieves the desired effect, but it's entertaining. So, yeah, this movie is pretty fun. I don't think it stands the test of time. I don't know how often I'm going to rewatch it, and I don't know how much I'm going to remember about it aside from Isaac and his funny voice. But, yeah, so this movie, in my opinion, does not stand the test of time, but, charming, and I'm glad it's part of our cultural imagination.
Yes, I love discussing a movie like this because I watched it last night by myself and I thought, it has some fun moments, but it doesn't really stand the test of time as like a complete cinematic project. And it's not. It's rough around the edges. It's threadbare. We see that. But I do think it's charming. And I think it does have a lot more on its mind than I gave it credit for. And I think the humor, intentional or not, does keep this movie alive. And that coupled again with the performances and indelibly memorable characters, Malachi, Isaac, Linda Hamilton's first role. So I think it has a lot going for it and should be a staple of anybody's October repertoire. I mean, this is a great spooky Halloween harvest time type of movie.
Totally. I agree with a lot of what both of you said, but as predicted, I'm going to go one higher and give it a 3. For me, it does stand the test of time. I revisit this movie all the time. I got to see it in Japan, which is just crazy. It's one of my favorite of the scary kid genres, but just because of my own personal relationship to it. I think that a lot of the things that could be considered bad about it are what kind of make it memorable. And I like that about it. I think that there's no other kids that you can kind of liken it to, even ones like, we talked about the bad seed and we talked about the Omen. And yeah, some of those have the same tropes, but these kids are a lot more memorable and alive to me than some of those other ones that you see in the scary horror. I think that they play with you a little bit, what our ideas of purity in children is and kind of what that is, and play with it a little bit for better or worse. But for me, I like it. I think this movie's fun. I'll never stop liking it. I get why people don't. And Stephen King has such a wide range of fantastic adaptations I could see why it might get lost in the shuffle. Number 7 is bonkers to me, also on that Rolling Stones list. I'm surprised at that too, even as a fan. So, but yeah, I just like it. I think it's unique in his filmography, or in the filmography, and it's fun in that way. I just think it's a lot of fun. It's I like to watch it in the fall also, even though the corn in there is green. I actually heard they had to spray paint the corn green to keep it looking earlier in the season than it would be. Yeah, it works to me. And as I was watching it this time, I had to wonder, like, would this still work in the time of, smartphones and of more connectivity? Because you see them wearing kind of these clothes that signal to people like us that they're very religious. They've got the hat, they've got the suspenders, and the women are wearing like, kind of these long, weird, frumpy frocks kind of thing. And you drive through certain parts of the US and you do still see that. And I think it's almost kind of a bit of a, even in this crazy world that is changing quickly, a bit of the past that you can still see to this day.
Totally. Yeah, thank you for that. I think a lot of great points. Kernels of wisdom, one might say. I needed to sneak in one more corn pun, I'm sorry.
Nice.
Oh, that was, amazing.
Hey, nice.
Okay.
Despite how corny this movie is, that's the most obvious one.
You two are just popping off now.
Oh, man. All right, here they are. We're fitting them all in at the last moment. I love it.
Yeah, shucks.
Oh, man. These are great. Classic. Yeah, so many good points, Naomi. I'm glad you like this movie so much. Thank you again for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Can't wait for trivia in a couple weeks. Yeah, and Vampire's Kiss in July as well.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I always have so much fun when I come on the show, and I always learn a ton. I really value guys' perspective, and it's really fun to explore a movie like this, which is close to my heart, even though it's got its problems. To discuss it in a way like this on the podcast. So thank you so much for having me, and I'm so excited to host trivia with you guys again, and of course to see everybody out at July 10th for Vampire's Kiss.
People, if you can, get out there to the Heights, and I'll drop all the links in the show notes, and just message us if you have any questions. But Naomi, always a pleasure, our honor. Thank you, friend.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us, friends. Please rate and review the show and follow us on patreon.com/campkaiju for additional videos, reviews, merchandise, and more. Other ways to get in touch: campkaiju@gmail.com, campkaijupodcast.com, on Instagram, and at our voicemail number, which is 612-470-2612. Camp Kaiju was recorded in Minneapolis, St. Paul, with Media's Mailbox music by Ben Cook Feltz. Thanks, friends, and until next time, stay campy. Camp Kaiju is brought to you by Zach Linder and the Zach Pack, powered by Coldwell Banker Realty. Whether you're looking for your dream home, a savvy investment property, or expert guidance in home rehab and flipping, the Zach Pack has you covered. Check the link in the show notes for more information.
Outlander! We have your woman! She still lives! Outlander, maybe you don't hear so well. Outlander! Come on! Come on! Come on, Outlander!